Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network Show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and we are here for an ESVN OT. Here to give our locks against the spread for NFL Week 13. Man, it's already December. Can't believe it. We've been doing this show throughout the NFL season, and it has been a blast. We're going to try to find a way to still incorporate some against the spread content once the NFL season is over, especially because, as I keep saying, these are the hardest games to pick, and that's what makes this so fun. The NFL is as unpredictable as it gets in a league. Hello, Bradley. Bradley Alsop.
I'm back.
He's back. I mean, you were here on Monday, not Tuesday. I was out Wednesday.
Yeah, we've been ships in the night.
Yeah, but so much sickness going around. So much, and not
quite ill.
Just COVID. It's like everyone's immune systems are kind of compromised, I feel like, after the past few years, and not everyone, I should say, because some people were not lucky enough to be able to lock down. But at least with masking and everything, like, I just feel like everyone's getting so sick all of a sudden. So
it's just like a weird, like, it's weird that to have very clear non-COVID illness, because like I tested, I was negative, so like
yeah, right.
It was just a run-of-the-mill virus or flu-like thing, but
oh man, it takes it out of you.
Oh yeah, and I was just like not accustomed to like just being regular sick still.
And you're not having any caffeine while you're sick, which is
it was hurting my stomach, so I haven't had coffee in like 2 days. So I'm really just like kind of tweaking right now.
It's a fate worse than death.
Yeah, it's wild actually.
Hey, I get so you're not playing 100%. You're playing through injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, any given Sunday though, right? Like
no, I'm coming back. I don't think I'm losing the rest of the year.
Well, I mean, has the mush worn off from when? For people that don't realize, Bradley's gone 0-6 since he picked the Jets to beat the Patriots.
So to recap, did I not lose for 3 weeks in a row?
Yes.
So I went 6-0-2. Because I had 2 pushes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I proceeded to go 0-6 the next 2.
And when you picked the Jets,
better, huh?
and we said at the time, I said like, Bradley, you're picking the Jets, you're gonna jinx yourself,
yep.
and it's happened.
Look what I've done to myself.
Somehow.
I was so confident about that pick, with no basis for it, just beyond the Jets should win that game.
Well, the Jets have been,
and it led to the benching of their quarterback. Yeah, funnily enough.
I've kind of I've been listening to some different takes on it, and I know, like I'm a stan for Chris Sims, one of my favorite analysts in the NFL, and he's been getting dragged for continuing to defend Zach Wilson amid this. I guess let's just like quickly take an opportunity to touch on this, because I know you might disagree, but Justin Fields was playing horribly at the beginning of the year. Like, what was he, completing 40% of his passes? They were scared to throw the ball downfield, but he got a long leash. It's year 2, same draft class, and now he's playing great. I mean, he's injured now, but Trevor Lawrence, a little different, but he's had some bad games as well, but you don't hear about it because it's not the New York media market. And he's now,
and some of them were sort of like in the sense of like, a guy doesn't always have like a 4 fumble game, for example, like Lawrence did. That was like, that doesn't really map onto like a person's like whole season usually.
And so, but point being is they got long leashes and it's paid off.
Yeah, no. But I think I'm wondering. My question to you though is, I'm curious what you like. I'm wondering. It's hard for me to compare. It's hard for me to like think back, but like I'm wondering who was better between like Fields pre the play that he's had. So I guess like the beginning of the season and last season relative to Zach Wilson's pre.
But it's a different situation because
both bad offenses.
But Justin Fields, no, I mean, I don't know. Like, Justin Fields they're asking him to, there's no expectations this year. They're one of the worst teams in the league. They're asking him to just go balls to the wall at this point and figure it out. Zach Wilson's playing with a defensive head coach that wants him to kind of take care of the ball and and play through the defense. I just think it's a different situation. And
But I guess I would argue though that Fields is playing better with worse weapons.
he's of course playing better. Fields and Lawrence, there's no question about that. There's no question. I don't know if Fields was playing better earlier in the year than what Zach Wilson was doing against one of the three best defenses in the NFL.
He has the defenses I agree with though, because he has played including the Patriots games. But I'm saying he's played like a few of the best defenses.
Yeah.
But in the league, but even for example, like there was a game or two where he basically didn't even throw for 200 yards. He was just not making the back-breaking mistakes that he had been against the Patriots twice.
But what I feel is concerning about the way the Jets are handling this is that this should have been a get-right game for him. That's what we've been saying against the Chicago Bears.
That had nobody on defense.
And now there's no way that they're going to start him again this year. I feel that way. I mean, Mike White is going to put up good numbers against this Vikings defense, which is bad. But do I think they'll win the game? We'll see in our locks. But there must be something really going on in the locker room. I think that's part of it. I think they're trying to teach him a lesson. At the same time, though, how it got to this point where maybe there was discontent in the locker room, I feel like that's on Robert Saleh. I think he is a little bit overwhelmed by the insane New York media that's going to be way more on you for losing than it is in Jacksonville or even in Chicago where there's no expectations, where he feels the pressure to win now, whether it's from ownership, whether it's from the New York media, and he should have handled all of this in the locker room. Like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore talking shit about Zach Wilson, that should have been squashed. Zach Wilson being a brat, that should have been squashed. And I feel like he's letting too many other people run the show from the outside and from inside the locker room, where it's like he should have been the guy to say, no, I'm going to stick by my guy. We invested in this person. It's not like Saleh and Joe Douglas came in and Zach Wilson was already the pick, which is the case with Justin Fields with this new regime. They picked this guy, believe in him, build around him, and maybe teach him a lesson, I guess. But I don't know what's the plan. Like, you're going to go with Mike White. Mike White, he started against the Bengals last year, and then a few games later, he was throwing a million interceptions and got benched again. Yeah, he's not that good. And I don't believe in quarterback rating.
No.
Enough with that crap.
I'm really not. I don't actually... Like, there's no serious person who thinks that there's a higher ceiling for, like, a guy like Mike White. He's a very serviceable backup, and he has no ability to throw, like, more than like 25 yards down the field. He's fine footwork and he's accurate, which is which I think probably is what they're looking for, because that's something that Zach Wilson has not been and those have been the two traits or tendencies that have actually probably been the most frustrating thing to watch about him, or for coaches that have coached him, I imagine, is just the fundamentals don't look sound, and they still don't look sound. However, I do see what you're saying, because I think it's a struggle between two things. It's a struggle for Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to not want to give up on their most marquee draft choice. The highest draft choice they had, the quarterback to the young quarterback that would ideally and hopefully lead their franchise under their regime as coach and GM. And so it's the tension between the optics of that, but also the optics of him, A, playing poorly, B, playing poorly with a roster they spent a large sum of money on and a large sum of draft capital on, where he is very clearly the weak link. It's not the running backs. It's not even the offensive line as much, even though they're quite injured. It's not the secondary. It's not the pass rush. It's him.
Right, but you gotta have the big picture in mind. Like, if he's your if you drafted him to be the franchise guy, you let him go through growing pains.
But what they did in the offseason, definitely, and what they did in the offseason and the success that they've had have certainly sped up their timeline. And if he's the person playing poorly...
But the same thing is happening with the Giants. You don't let short-term success get in the way of your long-term goal.
But the Giants did not nearly spend as much on their team as the Jets did. And they did not they're not getting offensive rookie of the year play from somebody before he got injured, and defensive rookie of the year play from their cornerback. They
I mean, but the point is that it would be a different situation though if they were losing with Zach Wilson. They went 5-2 with him.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to watch those games and not think and not like I don't think of those 7 games. In any of those games, he was particularly the reason that they won.
That doesn't matter though when you're developing your quarterback. At
But
the
then he's
same
Jimmy
time.
Garoppolo.
Fine, but he's not going to be that if you actually foster the development in a way.
But basically, the 49ers have had a lot of success with a mediocre quarterback that they've gone to conference finals and Super Bowls with, and he's most likely the reason why they can't get over the hump to actually win.
Yeah, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a known commodity. Zach Wilson's a baby, and you draft him and you develop him. And Mike White is more Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what the limitations of your team are going to be if you guys stick with that kind of person. What's the investment? Your sunk costs now with Zach.
No. I'm only saying this to think that. I'm not even saying this to say that I don't want Zach to start or I think Mike White is a better option. I don't. But I think this is a move from Saleh and Joe Douglas that they are feeling the pressure that he's not panning out.
I agree.
When they thought that he should be.
I agree.
Like and that.
But good organizations don't do that shit. Like the Giants. Yeah. The Giants have been hearing for years how Daniel Jones sucks, right?
And
they did not feel. And
he's also probably a nicer person or like a better.
Well, guy. He's a way harder worker and like he also has like size and traits where it's like okay you can work with that. Coaches like
and also I'm sure he just probably wouldn't even put himself in a position to have one word when he just said no become like a media firestorm. You know what I mean?
He's been like he's Johnny Professional.
So I think what I'm trying to say is I certainly haven't given up on Zach. I more mean I'm just thinking that what Saleh and Douglas are probably thinking is we've arrived a little bit ahead of schedule with some groups. We have a better record than we thought we were going to come into week 13, and people have expectations of us. We spent a lot of money, and our marquee draft choice is not where other people are on the team. And he's also becoming a PR problem.
It's year 2. Well, PR problems in New York, it's always going to be that way. With this market.
Think it's so much more optics based.
It's year 2. I know. And then we're in agreement. But I don't think that's the right way to run your organization.
And of course, and also, if they were playing the Chiefs, like sure, bench Zach Wilson so he doesn't get destroyed again, maybe, or something like that, or if they're playing the Bills, like, but lead Mike White to slaughter, so to speak. I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal for him, but I see what you're saying in the sense they were playing against Trevor Siemian and a Bears defense that lost to Eddie Jackson during the game.
Yeah,
they're already threadbare defense. Lost
probably the worst
player.
Defense in the NFL right now, besides maybe the Raiders.
So Zach Wilson was going to have a chance to do anything. I think it would have been that game, but I don't think that the certain problems that would probably exist regardless of whether he continued to start or not. In the sense of the fundamentals still just simply have to be better for him to be a good quarterback. His floor has to raise. I know what he can do on it. I know he's fast. I know he has a good arm. I know he can play out of structure, but he can't force things out of structure. Mm-hmm. And also I understand. And listen, I like you said, Elijah Moore is not a Pro Bowler. I understand, but a part of me does understand. Like he was a first round draft pick, and he has basically no chemistry with this quarterback. And these problems, but I think these problems would exist regardless of whether he's or not.
I mean, it just to me, this is all stuff that Robert Saleh should be on top of with the relationships in the locker room.
Well, yes, but of course, like I think what I'm trying to say there too is that the problem is whether Mike White continues to start or it goes back to Zach. Those problems persist regardless. Mm-hmm. They're not going to. It's Mike White. It's not good. This is a Band-Aid on a larger issue. You're not. It's not going to improve Zach Wilson's play or his fundamentals by benching him for Mike White. It's not going to improve his relationship with Elijah Moore. That Elijah Moore is getting more touches and more reps with Mike White than he is with Zach Wilson.
You call the guys in and you say, "Hey, let's hash this out. Stop litigating this in the media, guys. Stop liking these tweets. Zach's our guy. Yeah. We rally around our second overall pick, and he's been winning for us. I've been told all the time." All football players care about is wins. I've been told all the time that wins are quarterback stats. Wins are quarterback stats, right? Well, and I think that's bullshit. But at the same time, like, it's a balancing act. You've invested in this quarterback. He's winning. You're winning with him. Keep it up because he'll find a groove in these past 2 games. I know they would have won with Zach Wilson against the Bears with Trevor Siemian
I also
starting.
a part of me also does wonder what Mike LaFleur's like role in this is.
Yeah,
well.
why aren't they developing this kid more? Like, it's just I don't know.
Because I also don't think Elijah Moore's discontent was only with Zach Wilson. I think it was also with LaFleur, which was part of the reason why he didn't show up to practice for a few days as well. So I think it's not just
Elijah Moore, like talking. He hasn't proved anything. Like, it's one thing if the guy is, like, again, as you say, a Pro Bowler. Let's give it a rest here, Elijah Moore. He hasn't proved anything.
well. I think they have to. I think. Like, I understand his frustration, but there's ways to deal with that where you're not putting it out in the open like that. And I see the same thing with the Knicks. It's like it's in the sense of like, Mitchell Robinson is tweeting like, I'm not getting enough playing time. It's just like which I know is like smaller stakes, but at the same time,
But it's not
just,
against your own teammates.
Right,
That's where I don't like it.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying is just like the hard thing is you see better teams that just don't hang out their dirty laundry like this. And I think it will only lead to further
That's the thing.
discord between the guy who probably at some point will be the star, because Mike White is not the answer unless they unless they give up on Zach Wilson, try to get a veteran. That's a different story. But that's not the here and now. That's a question for the offseason. Like
After year 2, they're going to give up on a guy who got injured both years and also got injured in the preseason and didn't get practice reps until like later in like when did he come back? Week 4, week 5?
how bad? But I guess I'm curious to
This is bad. The more I sit with this, the more I feel this is like really a bad decision by
But my
them.
question is how bad? How long does he have to be bad before you think he shouldn't get a chance?
You at least till year 3. At least till year 3, especially if you're winning with him. Winning is supposed to cure all. Then he can get into more of a groove. The more I sit with this, the more I feel like Saleh totally fucked this up.
Well, also imagine too. It's not as if that Pats loss brought them under 500, for example. You know what I mean? It's not as if they're fully out of the playoff picture as a result. I mean, the tiebreak is tough with the Patriots, obviously, for the wild card or whatever the case may be, but it's not as if it dropped them to 8 and 9, 7 and 8 or like
Yeah.
So I see I think there are a lot of layers, and I think from a more competent / less pressurized environment that these things wouldn't happen. But I think I do sort of feel like with all of this, Saleh and Douglas feel a little bit of wind at their backs of like we have to figure something out, or at least look like we're making a change. And also, it's the Johnson family,
right?
It's you have to wonder what they think.
I agree, but I don't necessarily think it's great team building or philosophy. So that was a little bit of an aside. Let's get into our picks then, shall we? Well, we should probably say what our results were last week, and then we'll.
Oh, do you want to?
No. We'll do our little fun thing. Then we'll pull up our old.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
ESVN Stone Cold Lock of the Century. All week.
Dan from the internet, thank you as always.
That's us when we talk about Zach Wilson. Our heads just explode.
I mean, close to it. So last week was a pretty good week for me. I'm still mad about the fact that the Bucks did not cover that spread. It was like 17-10 for eons and eons, and I was convinced that okay, the Bucks are gonna pull this off. But I mean, there are enormous flaws with that team that include Todd Bowles being arguably the most conservative coach in the entire NFL and not willing his team to a victory in that way. So I'm a little pissed about that. But the Giants backdoor covered on Thanksgiving. 49ers
I knew you'd be happy about that.
I was. won 13-0, so they covered that 9.5-point spread. But Bradley, man, Patriots lost by a touchdown.
Thanksgiving was a tough day.
Yeah. Wait, did they lose by a touchdown? Yes, right?
Yeah. At the end of it, yeah.
Plus 2.5, didn't get it. Titans lost by 4 points, didn't get that one. Seahawks minus 3.5, and that was a gut punch in overtime where Josh Jacobs ran for that 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah, that was also rather brutal for me.
So now we're close here. 17-8-1 for me. 18, 15 and 1 and 3 for Bradley. So in terms of the win column, I'm only one game behind you at this point. We're going to have to figure out how to calculate those pushes. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Maybe people can leave some suggestions in the comment section if you're more math-minded than
Yeah, if anybody has an
me.
idea as to how we could tabulate the pushes to like make it still competitive for us, and and how to
Yeah.
use them in a win-loss fashion. I was thinking maybe like half a point or something, or how like hockey does ties or whatever. But how do the hockey points? How do the ties factor into the standings at the end of it?
It's 1 point but there's no tie. It's essentially if you go to overtime, you
Randy,
automatically get 1
overtime,
point,
right.
and if you win in overtime or a shootout, you get 2, which is shootouts are the dumbest thing in the world. But that it's kind of just an artificial way for them to make it closer. I mean, we'll figure something out. I don't know if pushes should count as a half point. I mean, I feel like that should be negligible.
I think they should definitely count as a half point.
Well, and I wonder why. This is why we need impartial people in the comments to let us know. But all right, this is what we have for this week coming up. Here we go. Boom. All right. Speaking of the Jets, I'm going to start there. I do think that I think that the Jets are going to lose in Minnesota. That's my sense of it. What?
I'm just.
There's a weird line there.
Yeah, I don't really know what that is.
Forget it.
It's okay. I just remember the last person who picked their favorite team, and then the other New York team. 1-3.
Well,
just a little analytics for you.
Those are hard stats. So, as I was saying earlier when we were talking about the Jets, like Mike White, when he came in last year, he threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Bengals. It was like, wow, who's this Mike White? And then he got benched a few weeks later. After throwing 4 interceptions. I don't know if that'll be the case against the Vikings, who do not have a good pass defense by any stretch of the imagination. But the Bears probably right now have the worst defense in the NFL, with injuries included. So I do think that the Vikings will at least push here, win by a field goal at home. I just think that the offense is much better than that of what the Bears with Trevor Siemian. I mean, of course. So in terms of like I don't see this game as being low scoring. I think it will be a bit more high scoring, but I definitely trust the Vikings defense to or Vikings offense, I should say, to get one up on the Jets at home, because I think it's going to be really hard for them to stop Justin Jefferson and that crew. I just trust the Vikings at home here. I don't have that much more to add to it, and I mean I don't think Mike White is all that. So I think the maybe veteran players like Patrick Peterson in the secondary will be able to get a pick or 2 off of him.
I'm curious as to how Sauce Gardner and Justin Jefferson, how that matchup will be, because usually they have been playing man, usually with Sauce on the number 1 guy, or at least like the most kind of potent offensive weapon, like with Mark Andrews in Week 1 and against the Ravens, and then Jamar Chase against the Bengals, and so I'm curious how that'll manifest.
I mean,
itself. If that'll be like who gets the best of that matchup.
Sauce is good, but is very good, but Jefferson's generational.
That's the thing though, is just I wonder if he can keep pace with that guy.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll be a really interesting matchup. But I would guess that Kevin O'Connell is going to try to find some breakers to get him open anyway.
Oh yeah.
Especially if like at some point the Jets have to like they can't play man to man the whole time. You know what I mean? So I just really do think that it's the Vikings are going to win this one. What do you have next, Bradley?
So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars
in Detroit.
+1 over the Lions, because frankly, a little surprised by the Jaguars after the game that they played, after the drive that Trevor Lawrence had to win that game last week. Who were I forgot who they played. That's how
The Ravens.
Yes, the Ravens. Which honestly, I think the Ravens defense is really beat up, and we've been talking about it all year that like they've been struggling with injuries, and the secondary is pretty thin outside of like Chuck Clark and Marcus Peters. Occasionally having a highlight play. But he kind of sliced them up in the clutch to win last week, and I was just surprised to see that the Jaguars were 1-point dogs against the Lions. When I mean the Lions had a convincing win against the Giants, of course, but their defense, I still have very little hope in their defense to really keep up with any of these fast receivers that the Jags have, and Lawrence that I think now is I kind of feel like that Lawrence is playing well, and that there's going to be some consistency here. And I think if he's going to have another big game, he'll have it against a bad defense.
Well, that was like to not be vulgar, a nut drop game against the Ravens. I mean,
yeah,
huge
totally.
throws on fourth down,
like hard, difficult intermediate throws in the end zone for the 2-point conversion as well. So I just think if there's gonna be another team that he can maybe exploit their defense, it would probably be either like the Lions or the Bears or maybe the Cardinals, depending on.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Peterson is going to be all over him with like building up his confidence after a performance like that, I feel like. So I like that pick by you. The Lions scare me a little because they've been playing so well as of late. But I do think the Jaguars are a more talented team.
Right. I agree. I just think it's a matter of them maximizing. If guys can play like they did, I mean, like Zay Jones and Marvin Jones, I mean, on their own, not amazing receivers. I just think had really good games, and the connections with Lawrence looked great, and he's just his footwork and the intermediate throws, which are his real calling cards, looked great. I just think if it can persist into next week, that.
Marvin Jones revenge game,
or
DJ Chark revenge game.
Oh my God, that's
hard
right.
to know. They've swapped receivers, and
it's like a civil war.
It's also the war between the first overall and second overall pick in the draft last year. Both teams look a lot better, I would say, or not a lot better, but definitely significantly improved. Looks like maybe the Lions were right about Hutchinson versus Travon Walker. I like Travon Walker a lot.
Yeah, Hutchinson is highlight reel play. He's a great player, and I think we'll see him even develop and open up more once they have actual more NFL talent.
Yeah, I think Marvin Jones. But Aiden Hutchinson is the only defensive rookie right now that's closing in on Sauce for
because
defensive rookie of the year.
He's had some really impressive pass breakups and interceptions and really
he intercepted Daniel Jones in coverage.
Wild.
Yeah, and he read it, dropped back
perfectly,
and really athletic play.
That was the one close to the end zone, right?
No, it wasn't. It was the first interception he threw was in Giants territory, so they went and scored a touchdown right after, and that was kind of
there was one he had that was
a
3-yard throw or something, and I was like, that's crazy that he even had the heads up to catch that ball.
Yeah,
but no, he's
so
awesome.
lanky.
Yeah,
that's part of it.
But he's one guy, and I think that's for now. So I think the Jags have a chance. I think I'm just surprised that they were dogs here.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em, right?
Yeah.
I think in a neutral field, Jaguars would be favored.
Right.
So
I only really go close to pick 'em games anyway.
Oh yeah, that's your
My
MO.
highest line is 3.5. So I'll touch.
Well, I'll touch one a little bit bigger here. Don't clip that. Titans plus 4.5 in Philadelphia. Now, I mean, this is more about my faith in the Titans to keep it close than it is a knock on the Eagles, who looked excellent against the Packers. But the Titans are a smarter defense, and they're not going to say completely leave 50-yard chunks of the field open to exploitation by Jalen Hurts' legs. I mean, he had 2 massive runs within the first maybe half hour of the game, and the Titans are a much more disciplined defense than the Packers. I don't see that happening. The Titans are also top of the league in run DVOA defense, and I anticipate them being able to maybe clog the middle, so the play action or I should say the run pass options don't work as effectively. Once they're, I think, able to take the middle of the field away for some of the run game for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is going to have to drop back and pass. And I think that once you make a team that the Titans are facing more one-dimensional, they pounce the Titans. So I could see the Titans winning this game. I think the Eagles probably still will win, but I think it'll be very close. And the Titans also on the defensive side of things, they have, or I'm sorry, the Eagles on the defensive side of things. The Eagles have struggled against the run this year, and Jordan Davis might be coming back, but he's been dealing with an ankle, and it's a little up in the air. I know he's been practicing. I'm not sure if he will have a full snap count. He might be a bit more limited in this game. Regardless, though, even with like the new additions like Sue and Linval Joseph, former Giant,
Yes,
forever
forgot
love
about
him.
that when we talked about Sue, but that's they're really just adding.
But even with them, like
right.
Sue looks good, even though he's wearing some ugly ass number like 74, 76, bizarre.
The single digit numbers on the defensive side is like very strange.
I don't like that either, but I just like Sue. I just was not used to seeing him in some completely generic defensive number. But regardless, I just could see them having trouble stopping Derrick Henry, and then that opens things up for a Treylon Burks who is playing much better than the start of the year, kind of finding his groove. Austin Hooper has emerged as a fairly reliable tight end for the Tennessee Titans, and I just feel like they're going to be pissed about how they lost to the Bengals, and they should be able to lock down the AFC South. So I feel like they're not going to miss this opportunity to at least play hard. Plus, I saw this stat. This might be the one I feel best about, frankly. Vrabel is 21-7 against the spread with 3 or more points against them. When they're getting 3 or more points, 21-7. So I think it's a good matchup. Point. I think Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think they're going to keep it close at the very least.
No, I can see that. I'm a Titans guy.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, with good reason, right? Now you got the Bengals plus 1.5 versus Kansas City, but Bengals are at home.
Yeah, I took. This is my boldest pick for sure. The other two I feel like are a little safer. But I took the Bengals 1.5 plus 1.5 over the Chiefs at home. Partially, I certainly would not have taken this at all in Arrowhead. There's no way. I just think I am taking a chance on my thinking that the Bengals are hitting their stride and that they're improving significantly and that they found a recipe that's working for them without Jamar Chase. And, this Bengals team has beaten the Chiefs in a very, famously has beaten the Chiefs in a very high stakes game before. Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, really did scheme up a very interesting game plan for Mahomes in the AFC Championship game last year. Obviously, I think, I'm certain that, Andy Reid has thought about that game extensively and has thought about counters to those counters, of course. But I just think that finding this groove with the line playing better, the receivers kind of getting that, exhibiting that next man up mentality and playing really well, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, and Burrow, being Joe Burrow now with a better offensive line combined with the tenacity on defense, I think that the Bengals could shock people and take this one.
I mean, I feel like people are missing how good the Bengals defense has been at all 3 levels, right?
Oh yeah,
they're just so solid.
Oh, totally.
They have professionals at every.
And DJ Reader is back, their nose tackle, and he's just been a monster for them and blocking the run and just creating havoc in the pocket. So I feel good about where their defense is, despite them not necessarily having besides maybe Trey Hendrickson, they don't have there's not a Myles Garrett or a guy like a Nick Bosa or anything like that on that team, and yet they just play really really sound impressive team defense, kind of like the Titans almost. So they just have
true. I mean, yeah. And
versatile.
It's amazing too because I find the offensive coaching to be lacking
Oh,
given
yeah.
the talent that they have
Exactly. It's
on
the
the
other way
Bengals. But on the defensive side, they're so well coached.
Totally. It's like
and
the
sound.
mirror. Luana Ramo and Zach Taylor are like the mirror of each other. Like he gets the most out of his players, and Zach Taylor sometimes like somehow gets like less out of his players than he should be getting.
I mean, and I just don't necessarily credit Zach Taylor for a lot of their recent success. It's,
no, I agree.
To
I
me,
totally
it's
agree.
Burrow's a
Burrow might as well be coach.
superstar. Yeah. So I can't say I could do that if I were you. I mean, I can't say that I'd pick against the Chiefs.
But I gotta gain some ground back. So I'm taking some big swings.
Yeah. All right. Well, my final pick here is I struggled with this one, but frankly, when I looked at all the lines, I did also consider taking the Chargers +1 in Las Vegas, but I had to do the Giants at home. The Giants have been like, and I know that this team is different and people have caught on a little bit, but they have been quite disrespected by Vegas for much of the year. Like they've been covering spreads. They have been underdogs in a lot of games. For the life of me, I don't really understand why they are underdogs at home against the Washington Commanders. It would mean on a neutral field that they're like 4-point underdogs. And that to me, with Evan Neal coming back, with Azeez Ojulari coming back on the defensive side of the ball, I would say at the very least this is a pick'em game. But the Giants are at home. As I mentioned, right tackle Evan Neal coming back, which will be huge, especially if Chase Young is able to play this week. Azeez Ojulari will be coming back off the edge. Now, Heineke has been good against the blitz. He's scrappy. He gets out of the pocket. But the Giants might not have to blitz as much with Ojulari coming back. Because then you have Kayvon on one end, Azeez on the other. They can do some more 4-man pressures as opposed to like 5, or bring the safety up for a blitz. So the Giants are still incredibly banged up, and I know that Darius Slayton, who's like their only receiving option, has an illness in practice today. I hope it's not COVID. I hope he just has one of the bugs that's going around. But the Giants do have some extra rest after playing on Thanksgiving. I just think at home, I think they're a better coached team than the Commanders. I think that like their offensive scheme is a bit more creative. Heineke, while being fun, I mean he threw for under 200 yards last game. He's a great guy to root for. Is he a better quarterback than Daniel Jones? I do not think so, in my opinion. So I think the Giants are going to be able to hold their own definitely with the Commanders, and the Commanders' win streak comes to an end here, and then they go on bye, and then they play the Giants again. We'll see at home if that changes anything, but that's my sense of this game.
Yeah, and I also just do wonder how much of the Commanders have been playing better this the past few weeks. They're over 500, I think, or maybe at 500, depending on. But I like the defense. The defense has been playing well, but I agree with you. Heineke has that. He's ballsy, but he's ballsy with like not as much talent to like back up the ballsiness.
Mm-hmm.
So like he does like have there's a way I think to really exploit that and like make him make mistakes, and like
Wink can do that.
Yeah, and I was just saying I think if there's anyone who can kind of maybe befuddle a young confident quarterback like that, it could be a Wink Martindale scheme.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I could see it for sure.
All right, lastly here, you got the Chargers.
Yeah, which
Chargers.
is like, it inspired my Super Bowl pick, the LA Chargers. It's looking great, aging like fine cheese.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they can get it together. Herbert finally looks like himself again.
Yeah, but it's all the problems that we've talked about all year, which is just like the receiving core, it's just, but at the same time it's gotten to the point where it's like we need, despite all of those caveats, they need to perform regardless, I think, and to justify all of our belief in Herbert at some point. But so I took the Chargers +1 over the Raiders. Again, a little surprised. I know Josh Jacobs has been playing much better. Look, he's 300 yards on the ground yesterday. I mean, last week against Seattle. Really looking he's looking just like a fantastic running back there. But I I still think this will be close. I think I don't think this Raiders defense, even in spite of us, like, me and you both really being big fans of Patrick Graham from his days with the Giants, they just have not looked, Max Crosby aside, super up to the task of like being kind of a cohesive unit. And they have not played super well, this whole year. Crosby is, I think, a genuine talent, and I think he's a really good player. But he's one guy, and I'm sure he can maybe on this kind of beat up Chargers line get some pressure. But I think Herbert is smart enough and quick enough and savvy enough to make some
carve up this defense.
Yeah, and to put pressure on them. But my only real concern, like I said, is probably the line, just because he's been able to get some good solid action out of like guys like Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter recently. Guys who are obviously not super heralded, receivers, and especially without with very limited reps from Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but he was really able to do a lot with them last week, so maybe that could carry over. It's more just, I think, if this beat up and kind of very novice line can stay up in front of him, because at this point they're playing this guy like Foster Sarrell at left tackle or left guard, I can't remember which, because I think Rashawn Slater got injured. Obviously he's out for the season, and then I think Slater's replacement got injured. So it just they are just like their line is like a ghost ship right now. So we'll see how that goes, but I just think broadly they're more talented, and maybe and Herbert can maybe kind of show that he can be an X factor like that in games like this.
Yeah, I mean,
and also the run defense. Sorry, I'm sure you're gonna say that too. Is like that's probably my other primary concern is like this
if
run
Josh
defense is famously bad.
Right,
so
right.
If another Jacobs performance happens like this, I'll regret this pick for sure.
I mean, but it could just come back down to whose quarterback is better. And Herbert, I feel like showed like, okay, he is playing at a very high level at this point. The rib injury was affecting him.
So I agree.
He broke off a few more runs, and you saw his athletic ability again, where he's a little less afraid to run with those.
You definitely saw the shiftiness. You definitely saw the shiftiness more against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I saw they put up some graphic of Kyler Murray standing next to Justin Herbert, and it was like height comparison.
Oh my god!
Justin Herbert 6'6", Kyler Murray 5'10". It's like we know he's taller than Kyler Murray.
We get it. We can see that.
We can see that. Thank you so much, CBS. I think that's where the game was being broadcast. But anyway, so those are our locks for the weekend. That's really it. Basically, that's all I've got.
I just can't. I just hope that the betting on two New York teams curse does not befall you.
Well, even by saying that, you seem to be willing into existence.
I sincerely hope that it doesn't befall you.
Well,
really wishing
thank you for your concern.
Really wishing you the best of luck with betting on both teams. That when I bet on them, I went 0-3.
Now I'm in my head. All right, guys, we will see you on Monday, and we will have the results.
Do we want to do Patriots Bills? What we think?
Oh,
tonight?
right.
I'm struggling with this because I can't tell if the Pats will. I'm not expecting a whole lot from them on offense, but I'm just wondering if the D can kind of like give Josh Allen some trouble.
Well, Josh Allen is not playing at 100%.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
And he didn't even have a long week because they are just playing on a normal week, coming off of Thursday Thanksgiving football.
Thanksgiving, right.
And the line is what, 3.5?
Yeah, let me just double check that.
I'm gonna check that too, because I also am curious what the over under is.
Yeah. Plus or minus 3.5. Over under 44.
Over, I think I'm gonna go with. I think this is gonna be more of a shootout than people anticipate, because I liked what I saw from from Mac Jones against the Vikings. I thought that they were more aggressive as an offense.
And they probably scored more than they had in a little bit. That was a decently high. That was in like, that was probably 55.
And I saw he was like a little Brady-ish. He was like yelling at his guys. I mean, not that sometimes Brady doesn't take any accountability for himself, but I felt like he was
trying to galvanize them a little bit.
He was being a leader a little bit.
I'm gonna say 27-21 Bills.
Okay, so you think that the Bills win and cover?
Yep.
I'm going to say 28-24. So that's the Bills covering by a half point.
Okay, yeah. Closer though.
Closer.
But we're both taking the over, I think, too. There, right?
Yes. No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Oh, I'm not taking. You're taking the over. Okay.
Wait. 27.
No,
What'd
no,
you
we're taking
say?
over.
Yeah, you said 27-21.
Yeah. So 48.
Yeah.
Over 44.
We're both taking the over.
Yeah, both taking it over.
I mean, maybe if we do this again, like we could do over unders as part.
Oh,
of
sure,
our,
yeah.
Because I feel like, but now we're locked into against the spread. But sometimes those are even easier over unders. But that's what I've got.
Sounds good. Do we have any IMs to read before we head out? Or did they refresh?
I did not even think to have that
Wow.
open. I'm so sorry, guys.
This
I said this on the majority
this
report, but
sounds
I got a
like-
terrible night's sleep last night. I don't even know what happened.
sounds like someone who's picking an 0-3 slate this week.
Oh, God damn it. All right, guys. We'll see you on Monday. Peace.
Enjoy the games. Bye.
Bye.